The research that I'm doing specifically is fMRI neuroimaging research in both people who are bereaved by suicide as well as people who are struggling with thoughts of suicide. And in both cases, what I'm trying to do is identify a signature of what the brain looks like. So in the case of bereavement, when it's thinking about the deceased loved one, and in the case of suicide, when it's thinking about suicide. And in both cases, what we're looking at is how does the brain focus attention onto reminders of the loss or reminders of suicide? And how is that story about the loss or about one's struggle with suicide, how does that evolve in the brain? And specifically, we're trying to identify these neural signatures so that we can watch them play out when a person is not thinking about any of these things. So that's kind of my holy grail is I have these tasks where people are distracted. They could be doing arithmetic, they could be doing just responding to some boring, ongoing task on screen, and they're distracted. But while they're distracted, we're able to look at their brain and see, are they replaying the story? Is their mind attending to reminders of the loss or reminders of suicide? And how are these processes kind of flowing while the person is distracted, while they're thinking about something else? And then over time, what we can look at is how does the manifestation of those unconscious processes help or hinder a person from recovery? And so we're trying to understand this kind of unconscious scaffolding which creates the experience that we're having and see how that helps kind of move a person through their struggle. The work that I do is based on a methodology called neural decoding. And the idea of neural decoding is that you can have a pretty good statistical map of what the brain looks like when it's doing a certain thing, let's say thinking about a deceased loved one. So we'll train this statistical map using a very intensive task where we're telling someone to think about their deceased loved one. And so then we have a pretty good sense of, okay, this is what the brain looks like when one is thinking about their deceased loved one. And then looking at other time periods, we can query the data and say, how much does it resemble that? Does that mean that we're able to tell exactly what they're thinking? No, but we can identify these kind of ongoing psychological processes. And we can, with pretty good what you'd call discriminability, where we're able to say it's thinking about the deceased loved one that's happening, not say thinking about a living attachment, which we'll control for. We're able to say this is what's happening, and this process is happening. We don't know the content of what they're thinking, but we know that this process is happening, and then we can relate it to how they're doing, in general in life.